This is Horror Sucks, the podcast where we watch horror movies and tell you why they suck. I'm Ashley Atkins, and I'm a liar.
I'm Carter Rhodes, and I'm about to be full of sushi. Ashley, why are you a liar?
Because I've claimed on this podcast that I had watched Silence of the Lambs, or had watched pieces of Silence of the Lambs. I was wrong.
What were you thinking of?
Silence of the Lambs 2.
Oh, no. Wait a minute. Hannibal? What the hell, Ashley?
Okay, listen.
Hannibal sucks.
I realized that. I had only seen pieces of it. So the other night...
That's not Jodie Foster.
I realized
That's Julianne Moore.
I know. Listen, I'd only seen pieces of it. They were at a dinner table. I knew it was... Anyways, so the other night I was like with my dad and I was like, let's watch Silence of the Lambs because I haven't seen all of it. And he's like, yeah, sure, okay. And I was like watching it and I was like, I've never seen this. But also, another note, I was shocked. Because you know the famous line from Silence of the Lambs, you know?
Yeah, a census taker tried to test me once. I ate his liver with fava beans and a nice Chianti.
Thank you. Whenever that's mentioned outside, no one does the...
It's important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
We paused the movie at that point for me to discuss my distress that was left out. And I'm really grateful that you included it.
Yeah. So, fun fact about that line is there's a certain kind of antipsychotics, I believe. Maybe they're mood stabilizers. Either way, they're just kind of run-of-the-mill pills that interact with liver, certain kinds of beans, like fava beans, and alcohol. So that line was supposed to be a subtle, like, I'm off my meds kind of...
Got it. Interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Good to know. But also, just is the best part of the whole dang scene.
Yeah.
But it's a great movie.
Hannibal is significantly worse, but like, I will say it does contain a lot more horror.
Oh yeah.
Like,
he escapes at that point and they're like chasing him down, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there's some scenes where they really revel in the body horror.
Yeah.
Silence of the Lambs was very intentional with how they used the body horror. Not saying it was bad. It was very good. Like, the face scene was super memorable.
Stunning.
They couldn't have a scene like that in Hannibal because of how much the body horror was.
Right.
I keep saying body horror. I mean gore.
I knew what you meant.
Yeah.
No, but it was a good movie.
You know why you're also a liar? It is the day of our Lord. February 10th in the year of our Lord 2023 on a Friday. Having promised an episode every Wednesday, we find ourselves overdue by 2 days.
You know, I queued this up and I knew exactly that this would happen when I said that I'm a liar. And you are absolutely right. It's hopefully coming out tonight. And by hopefully, I mean it will.
Good. All right. So this week, last week we said we were going to watch Prey. This week we did actually watch Prey. And...
I still cut that part out.
Yeah, okay. Well, it doesn't matter. Wait, did you cut it out from last week?
I cut it out from... I left in the part from last week.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure you weren't, like...
No, I didn't cut that part
censoring my claims of that we were watching Prey. Anyway, we watched Prey. It's on Hulu. This movie is the most recent Predator movie. How many? I'm sure you have it in your facts. How many Predator movies are there? 7.
7, including Predator versus Alien.
Alien versus Predator.
Thank you.
Know it. You know it.
I know. Alien versus Predator 1 and 2.
Yeah, AVP Requiem. Which, by the way, great movie. I recommend AVP Requiem. You don't need to see AVP 1 to appreciate it. In fact, AVP 1 is pretty bad. I guess it's okay. That's harsh. Anyway, I love the Predator and the Alien movies. They're fantastic. So I was excited for this. I thought that it was going to be an action thriller. And then someone on YouTube, I'm not intentionally leaving your name blank, I just forget, said you guys should review Prey. And I'm like, perfect. Finally, someone else said it so we can disagree with them. So here we are.
All right, so for those of you who are new here, how this works is that Carter will give the plot of the movie.
Well, it switches, but I will
this
today.
Week,
yes.
Carter will give the plot of the movie. I'll follow up with some fun facts. And then we will go over the good, the bad, and the spooky. And we will follow that up by the Joseph Tastasio Memorial Line highlight, and then give our overall impressions as well as a rating. And with that, take it away, Carter.
Okay, so movie starts in the year 1719 in the Great Plains. It follows Naru, who is a Comanche woman who's been trained as a healer, but she longs to prove herself as a hunter, like her brother Tabe. I'm sorry if I'm butchering the name, but they really didn't use names a lot in this movie. Dialogue was pretty sparse, and it was like they were talking directly to each other, so they didn't... I honestly had to look up Naru's name, is because...
Yeah, I didn't really know what it was for a long time.
It's just there's not a lot of people talking to each other in their native tongue. So she's tracking a deer with her dog, and she sees an alien predator spaceship crash. And she interprets this as... Because it was cloaked, so it was just kind of like this stormy, fiery thing falling to the ground. She interprets this as the Thunderbird, which is a mythical creature in Native American folklore, which she interprets as a sign that she needs to prove herself. So one of the hunters has been injured by a mountain lion, and she decides to go and prove herself by hunting the mountain lion with a couple of fellow Comanches.
Including her brother.
So they find the hunter. She uses her healing abilities to help his wounds, including feeding him this orange flower. They gave a name and I don't remember.
I have no idea.
But the concept is it thickens the bloods and it cools you down. That's important because he was like shivering and they go to put a blanket on him. And she goes, if you put a blanket on him, he'll warm up, his blood will thin and he'll bleed out. He'll die. So that's an important part. They're going to bring the hunter back, but Tabe stays behind to kill the mountain lion because it's got a taste for human blood. And she, really has to push herself to leave. She wants to prove herself in hunting. And as she leaves, she finds really big footprints and a skinned rattlesnake. And she thinks that maybe it's not a mountain lion, that there's something else out there. We see, by the way, as the viewer, we see that it's the predator skinning this. So she goes back because she's like, I gotta help out my brother. And they fight the mountain lion. She ends up falling off a tree and gets knocked unconscious. She wakes up back home because Tabe killed the mountain lion and dragged her all the way back to the tribe. So she's feeling like an idiot. Tabe is being like hailed as the chief. They're like, you're the best, you're the coolest.
He's kind of a jerk.
I don't think so.
Well, during this moment, he kind of was, because he was like, I did it. It wasn't us. And
Well, yeah.
Okay, but later we find out it was because of her idea that he dismissed.
But he's like, you, later in the movie, he's like, you saved me, you wounded it, and that was the only reason I was able to kill it. She didn't wound it. She,
No.
fell on her ass.
No, her idea was to hide in the tree and surprise it,
Right.
but then it got the better of her, but then he went back and did the exact same plan, and that was the only reason he killed the mountain
He also
lion.
didn't,
But he didn't own up to it.
Ashley's making it sound like he was like, I'm the coolest.
No,
As he
no,
just
he wasn't
accepted
that, yeah.
the role. Was like,
No,
thank
he
you
wasn't-
guys, thank you.
No, it was more just like,
He enjoyed his moment, and that's
Yeah.
all he's guilty of.
sorry,
So,
he really wasn't that much of a jerk, but
yeah. So anyway, from her point of view, she's jealous of him, clearly.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she's like, there's something other than a mountain lion out there. We have to find it. But the tribe is moving, so she splits off on her own with her dog to try to find and kill whatever this creature is. She comes across a bunch of skinned bisons, which is, I guess, meant to be the parallel between the colonists and the predator, because the trappers did that.
yeah.
She falls into a thing of mud, and then later she's attacked by a grizzly bear. The grizzly's killed by the predator. So she's now aware that, the predator is this invisible thing, and she comes across a group of trappers. They imprison her. One thing I did enjoy is that they were French, so,
Yeah.
they were speaking in French, so it made the characters speaking English feel like they were the English speakers and those were the foreigners. That was a nice touch I liked.
Yeah.
One of the trappers reveals that they've been plagued by this predator for a while, and they've been looking to kill it. they capture Tabe, who had went looking for Naru, and they end up using them as bait. Predator just kills them. It was just a bloodbath. They were sucked.
Yeah.
And as they flee, Naru and they escape. Naru and this random trapper who can speak Comanche are both injured, and so she takes the orange flower I mentioned to slow their bleeding. And in return, the guy shows her how to use a pistol. As soon as the pistol is shown, it's very clear it's a reference to Predator 2.
Yeah.
From the second you see it. So he teaches her how to use it, and the Predator finds them, but because they're like, the thing cooled their body temperature, it can't see them with its thermal vision. So it kills the dude who just really didn't have a role. And Naru and Tabe fight and wound the Predator, but eventually Tabe is killed. Naru escapes and sets up a trap for the Predator, just like the original movie, and it culminates in her fighting the Predator. She knocks off his helmet, which he's been using it as a targeting device for one of his projectiles. She tricks him into standing in front of it when he fires his projectile, and it kills him. And the movie ends with her dragging the Predator's head back to the village after painting herself in its glowing blood, and people name her the new tribe leader.
Pretty much it.
Can we take a quick break?
Yes, of course.
Okay. I don't know how Ashley's going to cut this, but we just ate dinner, and as I promised, I'm now full of sushi.
Okay. I have no idea how I'll cut it either. But anyways.
It's probably... like, I finish, and then I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm full of sushi now.
There might be a beep.
Ooh, that'd be funny.
Let's let Carter pour his beer, and then I will come in with some facts.
You can mute me while it's happening.
So there's a lot of facts for this movie, actually, surprisingly. This has the most fun facts I've ever seen.
Well, I imagine a decent amount are connected to...
You know what? Not really.
Really? Huh.
Yeah, a lot of it goes into like the technical stuff. There are a good chunk of them that are related to the original series, but lots of times when there's this many facts, it's like, for example, Scream. A lot of the facts were actually about the original Scream that just ended up there because they're the same name. But because this one has a different name, like, it's genuinely just facts about this movie.
So if I could, I'd love to start with the first fact.
Sure.
Which is that at the end of Predator 2, the characters successfully kill the Predator and are greeted by a bunch of other Predators who take away the body. They don't attack the man, though, because from what we understand about Predators, they're a very warrior-dominated society, and they respect the Earth warriors who managed to kill them. So they don't harm him, but they take away the gear, so he can't, like, use the high-tech laser stuff. And before leaving, they present the main character with a gift, which is a pistol, like a flintlock pistol, labeled 1715, and then I think it was some dude's name. And what we're supposed to take away from that is that they've been around for a long time. And that was sort of what this movie was supposed to be. This movie was supposed to explain that because she picks up a pistol with that exact thing. And it's confirmed by the director that it's that pistol.
Right.
That's my fact.
Okay, great. So this movie is directed by Dan Trachtenberg. He's known for 10 Cloverfield Lane, The Boys, and The Lost Symbol.
The Boys, really?
Yes. I think he's done a few episodes. I don't think he's done all of them.
Because I thought it was like Eric Kripke.
I don't know. I don't watch The Boys. But I do know he was credited for it. So the movie is starring Amber Midthunder. She's known for Legion, Roswell, New Mexico, and Hell or High Water. And then we have Dan DiLiegro, who plays the Predator. And he is from Lexington, Massachusetts.
Oh, cool.
Which is pretty cool. He's also 6'8", which is a fun fact, but he's 5 inches shorter than the original actor who played the Predator.
You're shitting me. That's crazy.
Yeah. He was 7'2", I think.
God.
I know.
I mean, at a certain point, it's so difficult to get a tall character who doesn't look like a tall guy.
Yeah.
I guess they must have used prosthetics or something, but he's like
I think they used creative filming.
Yoked.
Yeah.
At a certain point, when you get tall, you get lanky.
Yeah. And then he's known for, he's had some roles in American Horror Stories, Sweet Home, and he will be in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which comes out this year.
Nice.
And then the last one is Dakota Beavers, who plays the brother, and this was his first film. Or of anything.
He did a pretty good job for his first film.
Yeah, I was surprised it was his first.
Certainly wasn't a weak point.
No. All right, so let's get into some of this trivia. Like I said before, there's a lot. I will be only sharing what I deem important and me alone. So first things first, the rattlesnake. There's a scene where a rattlesnake kills a mouse and then tries to bite the predator.
While he's cloaked.
Yeah. Yes. And the reason for that is because rattlesnakes also use heat as a way to hunt. So he could see the predator because he gives off a heat signal, which is similar to the way the predator hunts. I thought that was pretty interesting. The predator's biomask is made from the skull of a river ghost, which is from Predators. So
Predators. What was Predators with Adrian Brody and Danny Trejo?
I don't know.
There was one where they like go on an alien planet. It was one of the worst ones yet.
It's probably that one.
Yeah, that was real tough.
Anyways, so the costume the costume that the Predator wears is much simpler than the original one, and that was to show that it's, earlier on in our time, but it's also earlier in the past from their time as well, so it's a lot simpler. The helmet that he wears is actually made from bone and not like the metal helmet that we normally see. They did that on purpose because they didn't want to use that same thing. So I thought that was
they also
pretty
had a
interesting.
lot of, in the original, they had a lot of like tubes and shit hooked up to the mask.
Yeah.
This seemed to truly just be a face mask.
Yeah, there was some tech like woven into it, but it really was a lot simpler.
You could just pop it off.
Yeah.
The other one you had to like
Yeah. Yeah.
like a Vader helmet.
Yeah, there was a lot less armor. It was pretty cool. So the film was shot both in English and Comanche. Is that what you said? How was it?
Yeah, Comanche.
Comanche. And that's because a movie that had like Russian in it, and they felt that it was too complicated to try and like just use to kind of figure out the language barrier. So they decided to go back and forth, making the English seem like that was the native language.
They ran into a similar problem. Not this guy specifically, but there was a similar problem with The Hunt for Red October.
Oh, that's exactly what I'm talking
Yes,
about.
where they had some characters speaking in English, some in Russian, and it was just so jarring going back and forth that
Yeah.
they had to, at one point they just switched and it was all in English. Fun fact, they switched like mid-sentence on the word, I belse, Armageddon, because it's the same in both languages.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I will say, so then because of this though, they actually did a dub of the movie in Comanche where they actually actively tried to make the words line up with the movements of the English version, so it doesn't look like it's dubbed too much. And you can watch the whole movie in Comanche, which is pretty cool. Dane DeLiergo, the Predator, he did all of the acting, stunts, and motion capture for the character without a stunt double.
Nice.
Yeah. This is the highest rated Predator movie on Rotten Tomatoes. We've already spoke about our opinion on it, but it's also the
Wild
highest.
that the first Predator wasn't the highest rated one.
I don't know. It's also the highest viewed premiere of any TV or movie on Hulu ever.
There was a lot of buzz about it when it came out.
Yeah.
That was when I wanted to watch it, but we had not yet found a viewer willing to ask us to watch it.
Yes. So the Comanche language is a numeric language, which is of the indigenous Udo-Aztecan family. And actually, they kind of got it wrong because the movie says they're in the northern Great Plains, but the Comanche tribes are known to be southern and like closer to Texas or in Texas. So
On top of that, the Comanche tribes actually very quickly worked in both horses and firearms into their attack style.
yeah.
Here's a fun fact about the Comanche language is it's one of the few languages where they didn't have a written, like they didn't have an alphabet. It was just a spoken language. And then I don't remember the circumstances, but I assume that the settlers came and the Comanches decided they needed a written language. And so they made one. They made a written language that was adopted. And that's one of the only times in history that that's ever happened, where they intentionally said, let's get an alphabet for this bad boy. And they did. The Native American horror has had kind of a not resurgence, but like growth in an interesting way with Stephen Graham Jones and this movie, which I like. For those of you who haven't read it, Stephen Graham Jones wrote a book called The Only Good Indians, I believe.
Yes.
Which
I
is,
have your copy of that.
Yep. Part of a quote, which is the only good Indians are dead Indians. And it's very, very interesting. The story itself reads like a typical kind of ghost story, I guess.
Yeah.
But the way it's told really makes it feel like a Native American folk tale, even as it's happening in modern times. It's very interesting.
So the dog that was used, they chose that specific breed because it comes down from a wild dog breed. So it's the closest looking breed that we know today that would resemble what they had during that time.
I actually had an issue with it.
Yeah.
Just because the dog looked a little too, like, purebred.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Also, to make the movie look like it's been uninhabited, they shot up in Alberta, in Calgary, and it was really pretty. What else? The Predator only has 6 minutes of screen time total.
Does that include when he's invisible?
You know what? I don't know. I think
'Cause
so,
to be
though.
fair, I feel like you should count when he's clearly there but invisible.
I think so, though.
Or at least it should count as halftime.
Yeah. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna call it.
Okay.
Oh,
I
the
actually-
orange flower was the orange Tutsia.
Gotcha.
Flower.
I actually quite liked how over the top masculine all the characters were in Predator. They're like, Arnold Schwarzenegger is like I like a cigar. He had, by the way, Arnold had to lose weight for this movie.
Yeah.
And he is jacked.
So I have never seen Predator.
Have you guys, you know that meme of the jacked
just gonna say.
white guy hand and the jacked black guy hand shaking? That's from the movie. That's from Predator. It's when Carl Weathers and Arnold Schwarzenegger like grab each other's arms.
They're arm wrestling. So I hadn't seen Predator, so I was like, oh, I'll watch it so I can be prepared. I watched about 20 minutes of it before I decided not to. But
you should finish it. It's
I know,
fucking awesome.
I know. But I did see the scene where they grab hands and start arm wrestling in the air.
Yeah.
Which just
I mean, it's just
They're-
like a
both arms
testosterone-fueled
are
movie.
jacked.
And it's meant to be over the top
Yeah.
because then when the predator starts hunting them, it's that much more terrifying. Like one of the best scenes in the entire movie is when I think Jesse Ventura's character gets like his arm blown off or something, and he ends up dying, and the other guy goes like, "Contact!" and he's just shooting in the woods. Clip runs out. He picks up Jesse Ventura's minigun and is just shooting nothing. And all the other guys run up next to him, and they're all just blowing away the forest. And that captures a lot of, like, fear in these soldier guys. Is they're like, they didn't see it. Is they just saw their friend shooting in the woods, and they started it because they were afraid.
Yeah.
So,
Are we ready for
yeah. So
the good?
on that note, let's talk about the good. The good. Dun dun dun.
Great.
Easily the best part of this movie was the concept.
Yeah.
More or less, one of the things I enjoy about the Predator franchise is when they're being hunted, it's a new group every time. Mm-hmm. So, in the first movie, they were soldiers, presumably destabilizing a Latin American government, like Black Ops style guys.
Right.
In the second one, they were gangsters, like urban warriors, sort of. And I'm like, okay, it's a new take. You can make the claim that these guys are their own kind of warriors worthy of hunting.
Yeah.
Even there was like just kind of criminals and whatever Adrian Brody trash. Mm-hmm. What I liked was this is one of the first times that they are actually hunting hunters.
Yeah.
And I quite liked that because on a certain level, the natives would be hunted by the predator and the colonists.
Yeah.
It would allow for more low-tech weaponry by the predator because, you know, even if they had their shoulder-mounted gun a while ago, it would be like bow hunting.
Right.
It's its own challenge. That would have been interesting if he hunted them with just some kind of high-tech javelin type thing. Like no laser anything.
Yeah.
Just manual weapons like bows and arrows to match their technology.
That would have been nice.
That would have been cool. And it would have allowed for more sophisticated hunting techniques because the soldiers, like, he kind of just followed them from a distance.
Yeah.
It would have been nice to see him truly hunt. Because I'm sure hunting a hunter has all kinds of different challenges with it other than hunting a prey animal. And I would have liked to see that explored a little bit. Especially with the beginning, how it showed them fighting the mountain lion. I thought that was setting the theme of hunting prey versus hunting a predator. And the title, in addition, hints, like, are you the prey or the predator?
I don't know. I agree. I really appreciated the stripped back predator. Although I know you wanted it a little bit less tech. Mm-hmm. I appreciated that it wasn't as high tech. You know, I appreciated what they were going for. I did like that.
One of my issues with it was just that it was stripped back tech in that, like, stripped back the way that firearms are stripped back is like, instead of shooting a laser bolt, he shoots like a flying arrow from his wrist. And it's like very much like this will become this weapon.
Yeah.
Which makes sense in the idea of technological improvement, but not, it doesn't make an interesting new thing. Mm-hmm. Like if he had some kind of a, I don't know. The shield was the only thing I saw him use that I was like, ooh, that's cool. That's something I could see being old-fashioned.
Yeah, I liked the shield. He had a staff that kind of popped out. I like that.
The staff spear has kind of been used in all of the movies, I don't really want to give that credit. Okay.
Then I will...
It was a variation on it.
I will take that back then. Mm-hmm. That's coming from me not knowing.
It's actually kind of over. Like he could split it up into two things. In previous movies, it would just like grow and shrink, and that was it. So this is kind of over-engineered.
Wow.
Yeah.
But no, I thought the movie overall was stunning in terms of like the setting, and the costume design was really great. I really love how they captured the tribe.
Fun fact, there was a lot of Native American people working on this movie, and specifically the actor playing Tabe, I don't remember his name, Dakota Beavers? Yeah, I think that was him. So he actually, his war paint was actually inspired by his grandfather.
No way.
The war paint that he used to use. He would work in like horses into it. Mm-hmm. So
very cool.
That carried over, in addition to being a cool fact.
Yeah. That
carried over into a way where each war paint, all the costumes clearly had backstory, and that built to a larger history.
Everything felt intentional. Mm-hmm. And I really appreciated what it was giving. You know, there was no moment I was looking at the phone going, do they really know what they're doing? Yeah.
Did you watch this on your phone?
No, I watched it. Well, no, why?
You just said I was looking at my phone.
Oh, I meant I was just watching it.
Okay.
No, I watched it on my...
I thought that would have been funny, because this is just not the kind of...
No.
I mean, it's not like it's not like Dune or something where it's like, you won't experience it unless it's big screen, but...
No, I watched it on my laptop. Anyways...
This also goes beyond just the Native American history. Is Lord of the Rings did something similar, is they designed each piece of armor to kind of represent a whole story.
Yeah.
Like there would be upper and lower class like orcs. Mm-hmm. There were some orcs that would have like their equivalent of a family sigil, and there was others that were clearly thrown together. And so it's like it has the same energy as that, except it also is charged with an actual physical history in the world, which is fascinating to me.
Yeah, the detail on that was really stunning.
Absolutely. So one of the best parts of this movie is the filming was unbelievable.
Yeah.
They used a lot of natural lights to try to... They use almost exclusively natural lights to try to capture the beauty of the landscape shots.
Yeah.
And it did a great job. It didn't feel like a movie. It felt like...
Yes,
it was
definitely.
Gorgeous.
It did a really great job of just showing the natural beauty of the land without it didn't look like it was edited. It didn't look fake.
And then
like
thematically adding or removing all of those artificial things to quote unquote improve filming
yeah.
also really helped make you feel like you were back in time. It added a level of like history to it that I enjoyed.
They also did a really good job with lighting, especially at like during the night scenes.
Yes.
You know, they used fire and they actually
Torches, yeah.
Yeah, they used actual torches to light themselves and light
So,
the way.
Fun fact. So first of all, I did really enjoy they would have the torches and then they would put out the torches and then the lighting would shift to be, granted it was artificial at this point, but it was like blue to kind of represent moonlight. And so you were, at no point were you unable to see things, but putting out the fire didn't take away anything.
It was impactful in the way you want it to be, and the screen did not feel too dark. They did a really great job of balancing that to say, yeah, it's nighttime, but you still need to see because this is a movie.
Yeah.
And but it didn't take you out of the movie either.
Fun fact, they weren't getting enough light from the torches, so they put LED strips on the end that faced away from the camera to get some extra light on
You know what?
That's one of those clever tricks.
That's super innovative, and it worked really well.
Yeah.
Like, I believed that torch cast that much light.
It's one of my issues with Skinamarink from last week.
Yeah.
It's probably gonna be like 5 days ago that it came out.
Yeah.
That's one of my issues, is it didn't feel like they had an idea and said, how can we make this real? It seemed like they were just throwing tricks at us. With this guy was saying, we want to light it naturally. How do we make it feel like there's nothing, that you're just watching the characters while still making it watchable?
Yeah, it was great filmmaking, really. I can't believe, I'm so shocked by that LED strip on the back. That's so
It was
freaking smart.
really subtle, too.
Like, oh, that's brilliant. It's so good.
Yeah. The sound, at least for the most of the movie, was pretty good.
Yeah.
The music kind of changes part of the way through, but in the beginning, it's all what you would imagine to be tribal music, like a lot of drums. The wind instruments are like flutes and stuff, things that, granted, I'm no historian, but I would imagine you would have. There wasn't a string or brass instruments in the soundtrack. Part of the way through, they just gave up on it, which was a shame. But I did like that it really added to the... It dated it in a way that added some authenticity.
I really actually liked the intermingling of the languages. I thought it felt so... At first, I was like, oh, they're speaking in Comanche, then they're speaking English. Do they speak both languages? But then, as the movie progressed, it just felt really natural. Like, oh, no, they're still speaking Comanche, but we understand it. Like, it's kind of like... I don't know if you watch Doctor Who, but like... The Doctor Who TARDIS like translate the language in your head for you, and it just kind of felt like that. Like we were just having it translated for us rather than they're speaking in English.
Guardians of the Galaxy had the same thing.
Oh, did it?
Yeah, I don't know if they ever explained it, but there's a Peter Quill has this like thing around his neck.
Yes.
And that's the universal translator implant.
Yes. Oh, I forgot about that.
Yeah. So I loved the start of the movie. It was so good. It started with just a voiceover. She said something in Comanche, and then she just said, a long time ago, it is said a monster came here. That was it. And that built so much to the story. Is like, it set the tone. It set the, like, in-universe history. It promised you something, but it didn't give anything away.
It gave you just enough. It was like, oh, you're hungry? Here's like a tiny little piece of crumb to tie you over until the movie actually gets going.
Yeah.
There
are some lines in history that like are really great hooks. The one that comes to mind the most is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. It's like, we were in the desert somewhere outside of Barstow when the drugs began to take hold. It was like that. It's like, essentially it's just like, buckle up.
Simple is good.
Yes.
Simple is very impactful.
Yep. Because movies show so much and there's so much detail that the voiceover doesn't need to, like Avatar 2, tell us everything that happened. Sometimes, like, I don't know. I think it would have been cool. Granted, they would never do this with such a big budget movie, but if like Avatar 2 did the same thing, it was like a long time ago there was a war and then they moved on.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't really need to have actually seen any of the scenes.
No.
Pick up on it. The whole movie, it's clear that he was a war survivor. Anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not done yet. Gushing about the opening. So after that, she watches this thing fall to Earth, and it pans up to see the like streak it left in the sky, and as it does, it pans to see the title, Prey, all caps, outstanding. And then she's talking to her brother about why she should get to hunt, and she goes, I saw a thunderbird. It's a sign. And that's the perfect in-universe explanation as to why she wasn't like, this weird-ass thing happened. Is like, yeah, if I saw that in the days before sci-fi, I'd be like, oh, must be a spirit.
Yeah.
It has to be. Like, what else could it be? And it allowed us to see the Predator arriving and promise us that the Predator is coming without making her like the Cassandra trying to warn everyone the whole movie.
It also, she didn't sound crazy or
Yeah.
look crazy because of that. It's like, oh yeah, you saw the Thunderbird?
Yeah.
Okay. Like,
and naturally no one believes her, but like,
but they don't treat her like
Yeah.
like she's crazy. They just
they're
are
like, yeah,
uh-huh.
you wanted to see a sign
Right.
because you wanted this, so of course you saw it. I loved the opening. It was a fantastic start.
I have to agree. One thing I really like about this movie is, as someone who hasn't seen the rest of the series, it stands alone really well. You know, guaranteed there's a lot of Easter eggs that I've missed because of that, but I liked that I really didn't feel like I was missing anything too much by not watching those other movies.
My complaint is that that may be that it's a great standalone movie. I wouldn't know because I've seen the others, but
Is your complaint it doesn't tie in enough?
no, the Easter eggs are like Easter landmines.
Yeah.
Is like, it's not a reward for those paying attention. The movie kind of like elbows you and is like, get it, remember from that movie you liked?
Exactly.
And I'm like, yeah, no, I got it. You used the exact quote.
That is a good point, but I thought it's I wouldn't say stood its own, but I thought it did well
Sure.
as a movie overall. I also really enjoyed the main character.
Nara was pretty likable. I have some complaints, but it's more just in how they portrayed her.
Yeah.
It's not like she herself was unlikable or anything.
No.
I think we can all kind of relate to her. Is
Yeah.
like they didn't really play up the like gender dynamic, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
Is it was like kind of an ambiguous because you're a girl, because you're young, kind of like whatever you want to see in yourself that you can relate to, and I liked that.
That's what I liked about it. I just thought she did. She was a good lead.
And they did a good job of characterizing her too. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you could tell very quickly that she was just like the stubborn, willful girl. Like when she's talking about how she trained her dog, and she's like, he's smart, and her mom's like, not every smart thing can be trained. And it's clear that she's talking about her daughter.
Yeah. The other thing I liked about it is like they gave us those without over-explaining her character. We've seen it too many times where they've really taken the time to let you know who this character is, and
They're like, look how nice she is with all these people. They didn't show that.
no, we just kind of found out who she was over time. It was good.
So one of my favorite parts of this movie is when she's fighting the Predator at the end. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but it's got its arm stuck in like a tree or something, and it brings up the shield to block it, and it ends up cutting its own arm off. And I quite liked that because it contextualized their fight as sort of a chess match where she could not physically overpower this. It's like 7 feet tall. It's huge. She had to be smart about how she did it. And that fit her character. Is she, in a way, was forcing it to beat itself. Is she put it in a position where it had to sacrifice its arm in order to survive. And like, it was just very much a tactically intelligent battle. I quite enjoyed that.
And that kind of flows into the final scene as well. I really enjoyed the ending, actually. I liked that it kind of brought us back to the mud pit.
So if you haven't seen Predator, you wouldn't know this, but one of my complaints is it kind of just rips off the original Predator. Is in that movie, Arnold Schwarzenegger realizes that he like lays in the mud and like rolls over as the Predator's coming at him, and the mud covers his body heat. And so then he does the same thing, is he uses low technological stuff and mud to beat the Predator.
Got it.
And so it was just the same ending, basically.
Well, as someone who hasn't seen that, I enjoyed it. I liked that she trapped him in the mud and then used his own mask to kill himself. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say there's one character in Predator, a Native American like tracker character. There's one scene in which he survives very late. I think he was one of the last people alive. But at a certain point, he's like just trying to buy Arnold Schwarzenegger time. There's one scene where he just stands on a tree log over a river to like mano-y-mano the Predator. Just the two of them with his machete.
Yeah.
And supposedly this director, when he was a kid, one of his friends told him there's a Native American character in it who fights the Predator. And he's like, that's the coolest thing I've ever heard. And he saw the movie and he was bummed that they cut away. Yeah. Like, they cut away when he's just standing on the tree and later you hear him screaming. That was a bummer. Because I was like, yeah. Even me, a non-Native American, was like, oh man, I really wanted to see that dude fight him.
Yeah.
All right. Are you ready to talk about what you didn't like?
Yes.
So, I've mentioned this. They kind of just stole the ending. They didn't do any clever trick to it. In fact, they even got the, like, outsmarting the Predator's heat vision again.
Yeah.
It was just, there was no twist to it. And that's frustrating because they had already handled it well with Predator 2, which is that they didn't have the characters, like, realize all over again that hunts via heat. Is they kind of had it, admittedly they had it explained to them.
Sure.
But the movie shouldn't be every movie someone has to realize that it's hunting via heat vision.
Yeah.
And they had a great opportunity to, this is several hundred years before, maybe they didn't have the heat vision. They could have done something different.
Yeah, I think they had an opportunity to be a little bit cooler in terms of like the Predator's way of hunting. And
going back to the what I said with the more advanced hunting techniques, imagine how much better it would be if maybe it didn't hunt by thermal vision. Maybe it had like some kind of predator dog type thing, the way that old British people used to hunt. Yeah. Like with the dogs that would corner rabbits and stuff.
Yeah.
That would be
way more interesting.
Yeah, and it would be a perfect analogy with the colonists and the predators both hunting.
Yeah. I kind of felt, I was a little bit disappointed that the Predator didn't like do a lot of hunting beyond just looking with his heat vision for weapons and killing. Like,
and on top of that, he really didn't have a purpose for a while. He was just kind of killing any animal he saw.
Yeah, exactly. That to me was kind of disappointing. There was a lot of nonsense with him just to kind of set his character up. One of my biggest issues with the movie was no one was afraid of the Predator. Like, at one point, this is, I think, the worst scene of all. He releases like basically a grenade, and all of the colonists just like look at it because they're like, what is this? They walk towards it and it flies up and then explodes, and it was like,
in their defense, they had never heard a beep before in their entire life.
No, and you're absolutely right. That is completely fair. But they were not. No one was afraid of the Predator.
Yeah,
it just
your general point is absolutely fair. Is everyone was constantly trying to trap it or shoot at it. No one ran.
Right.
Like
so, which kind of ruined the effect for me because if they're not scared, why am I not? Why would I be scared? So I also just felt like this movie really wasn't all that scary.
On top of that, they established him so early.
Yeah.
Part of what made the first Predator good is I don't think you see him, even his silhouette, is you see a lot of shots of trees where there's nothing there, and sometimes you see things from his point of view, which again is thermal, so you can't really see it.
Yeah.
You don't really see what he's doing except watching. He doesn't have any clear goal. He just, he knows where they are and he's thinking. And this movie had him just kind of like killing stuff, and they established him so early, there was no tension. I knew what he was doing at any given moment.
The other thing too, it didn't seem like he was really thinking.
Yeah.
And you
He had no
telling me
plan.
that, like, right. Like, I would expect a little bit of thought from a trained predator.
It would have been nice if this predator went back to hunt Comanches. I don't know if historically they've been a tribe known for hunting, but let's just say some tribe known for hunting. Because, A, that makes sense in universe. Predators find glory in, like, battle and hunting.
Yeah.
And it's a nice challenge. Mm-hmm. We could have seen a really talented predator, because I think canonically the first Predator was kind of like the equivalent of a rich dude going and trying to shoot a lion. Is he had a lot of technology, but he wasn't very well respected.
If we had, if this predator had a less technology and it was more hand-on contact, it would have been way more interesting.
It like if he hunted with some kind of like physically based weapon rather than technology,
Right.
that would have been cool. Like bows and arrows.
Like, it would have made sense because we were, back 300 years.
There's also like no sense of them being hunted at any point.
No.
Is whenever he was near the characters, he was like clearly visible, or invisible in a way. I should mention he can turn invisible. I don't think I ever
want to talk about that
explicitly said
after.
that. I don't know. That's not my issue, but
No. He would just kind of show up, fight people, and
Yeah.
then just kind of go off and do his thing.
is it never felt like you were being watched or
Yeah.
hunted. Is just when he was there, he made himself known.
Yeah. So no, I do have issue with the invisible tech because he wasn't really that invisible to us. At first it was like, oh, okay, like that's really cool. Like, it's reflective basically. It's like but there was no like hint to it. There was no cleverness of it. At one point there was a scene that I really liked where they were running through the field and we had a shot above them and we were watching them run and we were just watching just footsteps in the grass. And I wish there was more like that, because every other time we saw the predator as invisible, we actually saw his outline and his silhouette. And I wish it was used a little bit less. Like maybe he stood a little bit more still so we didn't get it. But even when he was standing still, like it would just kind of ripple on him. And I wish it was less of that. It really kind of bothered me.
They handle Naru, they handle her so weirdly.
Yeah.
Like, they show that she's just as capable a hunter as the guys, and I'm like, okay. And then she just fails to hunt, like, rabbits for a while. She gets beaten by the mountain lion, so I'm like, is she not as capable? Why did you show me how good she was with the tomahawk?
Yeah, that made no sense to me either.
She's captured a significant amount of the movie, or knocked unconscious. She's bad at hunting rabbits, which, like, really just makes her look super impotent. Just
Yeah.
running around, like, throwing shit at rabbits. I'm like, this doesn't feel like I'm watching a powerful character here.
True. And then she ties a string or a rope that she makes to her tomahawk, which I thought was innovative, but then she'd like pull it back and immediately catch the handle. And I was just like, to me, that was just not
And then
probable at all.
it also just didn't have any thematic or even physical importance in the movie. She just kind of had her own weapon now. I was like,
Yeah.
I don't mind you giving her like 5 tomahawks to throw. That's not a big deal. She almost drowns in mud, which was just like, I get that it was setting up for for the scene at the end, but first of all, that was one of my issues, is watching her there. I'm like, well, they're obviously just setting up for like her capturing this thing in the mud at the end or whatever.
I didn't catch it, but
Like, it was just so impotent watching her like struggle not to drown in mud.
yeah, the scene went on too long.
Yeah.
She like throws the string tomahawk at this thing like 5 times. I was like, okay, we get it. It's hard. Like,
She kind of feels almost like I don't know, she can just do everything pretty well. Is like she wasn't using her intelligence to hunt with like the rope. That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
She wasn't really using her physical prowess because she was also trying to be smart. And so she just didn't have any clear strengths. It was just kind of what the movie called for.
Yeah.
And there was no real significance to it.
That's a good point.
There were some references in it that made me roll my eyes. Like they just lifted the "if it bleeds, we can kill it" line.
Yeah.
I literally wrote that down. I just wrote "fuck you." Then there's a lot of weak references where someone's like, "Kill me, come on, kill me," or like just her laying in mud. I'm like, okay, yeah, I get it. It's a reference.
Yeah.
If they just had the flintlock pistol, that would have been enough.
I was just gonna say that.
Which,
would
by
have
the way,
been-
I was frustrated with how obvious that was too. But
What else? The dialogue. I mean, on top of that too, like even the original dialogue, it just was like a lot of it was simple, but it just, I don't know, kind of was like, oh, okay.
there was no subtext to it either.
No.
Is she would like. There's one moment where she's ranting to this trapper. She's like, "You underestimate me, and that's what makes me dangerous." I was like, "Really? This was the best line you wrote?"
Yeah.
I really hated that the trappers didn't play really any role whatsoever.
No.
Is because that would have been the perfect prey. Like, you're the prey of both the predator and the colonists as you're being forced out of your land. But they're like, they really didn't play much of a role at all.
No.
And they were just so over the top villainous that I wasn't really interested in them either.
Yeah.
They picked the worst, which is like, they're so evil and then also not really a part of the story. So I was like, I'm fine with you guys it's a movie made by a lot of Native American people. I have no issue with them being like, look how evil these people are.
Right.
But like, they're just so tangentially related to the plot.
Yeah, they really kind of just feels like they threw them in there, and that was it.
Yeah.
They wanted like a big battle with multiple people. So one of my biggest issues too with this film is that a lot of shots were kind of ruined. So the shot where, what's her name?
Naru?
Naru. The bear. She's like hiding in the tree clump, whatever.
Beaver Dam.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Okay. And the bear gets pulled away by the predator and he holds it above his head. And the camera is like at where her head is. Right when it's like a really good shot, she lifts her head up just slightly to block it. I was pretty pissed off by that. But then too, when the predator is fighting a bunch of the Native Americans, they cut before there was any good shots, and we really only got one good kill scene. And I was very disappointed. I'm pretty sure this movie has an R rating, so I don't understand why they wouldn't show all of them. So yeah, I was not happy about that.
There was one scene in which a lot of this movie is like not really the predator not respecting the hunters and them not respecting the predator. Takes like 5 or 6 shots with bullets and is just fine.
Yeah.
He takes so much punishment in this movie.
Yeah.
And then there's one scene where everyone shoots him with muskets, he blocks it, and they all start reloading, and it's meant to be funny. But like, this is just tying into the not respecting these bullets, which can still kill you.
Right.
That you will absolutely die from a musket.
Yeah.
So it's weird that they were portraying that as funny, especially because then later she gets a pistol and is meant to show like that's a game changer. Is you didn't establish this weapon as lethal as it could be.
I had an issue with that too. When he was like, "Oh, like I'll show you how to use it," and she was like, "I'm gonna use it." I was like, "That weapon, like the gun's not a threat."
Yeah.
I
It should have been. Like,
Right.
historically speaking, guns are a threat, even those shitty ones. And
Right.
if the movie, especially being told from a Native American point of view, should not have been making light of these guns.
yeah.
I think I waited till now to bring it up, but do you
Okay.
remember when the Predator was fighting the Native Americans and they picked one up and threw him? And then there was the Wilhelm scream.
Yes.
That was so terrible.
Yeah.
The Wilhelm scream is awful. Don't use it unless your goal is to make me laugh.
It was in the facts on IMDb, and I was like, I'm not gonna mention
It's
it.
stupid.
Yeah.
It's not like it immediately kills my immersion.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I remember seeing a good Wilhelm scream was in Kung Fu Panda, meant to be funny during an action scene.
Yeah.
and that they did it well. Do not use it in a serious movie.
No. There's a few scenes where there are animals. They're so obviously CGI'd.
I
like
have that in my notes
the
too.
mouse, the snake.
Even the bear.
Yeah, the bear. I was just like, oh.
It was really bad.
The lion wasn't too bad, but
Well, that's because it was in the dark.
yeah,
And that's
probably.
a
You're right.
credit, is that they were creatively shooting in a way to hide what they were limited by.
They took advantage of that for sure. But the mouse was really bad. I distinctly was like, wow,
Yeah.
that's awful. But then also, the predator kills an animal. Oh, I think it was a wolf.
Mm-hmm.
And he takes the skull. And, like, this scene was a throwback because the predator wears bones, whatever. It was such a waste of time. Because
Yeah.
he cleans off the skull with whatever power wash he has on his thing, and
Yeah.
then just kind of puts it on his hip, and like later they use that to distract him, but it was like it still felt like a waste of time.
Yeah.
It was unnecessary.
It's making him less scary seeing what he sees.
Right.
And what he's doing.
Yeah.
It should have, you should have only seen him as a silhouette for a while.
Yeah.
And instead it's like, here's him going about his daily routine, brushing his predator teeth. I'm like, okay, cool.
Yeah, it just there was no mystery as to who he was or what he was doing.
The characters are just terribly indistinguishable. They're like, a lot of them are just made clearly to die. I don't even know if they said their names.
I couldn't tell you.
And then the last thing that really got to me was one, they're like, they hear a noise, and the Americans hear noise, and they're like setting up to shoot arrows at it, and it's just possums. Yeah. And they're like, oh, it's just possums, it's okay. And she goes, what drove the possums? And I was like, literally anything?
Yeah.
They're
Their response was
scared
valid.
little bitches. Those are not, it is not spooky that a possum is running from something. They've evolved to pretend to die.
Now I'm just thinking of Over the
that they're
Hedge.
running. Yeah, Over the Hedge is a great movie. Lastly, one of my complaints is one of the Americans is just like kneeling with a bow and arrow waiting to see the predator, and he goes, we've got him. And she looks over and she sees like the laser sight on him, and she goes, no, he's got us. And she like pushes him out of the way, and then the arrow flies right past his head. And it was just such a nonchalant, no big deal that like his head was that close to getting blown off. I was like, I feel like I would need a moment or something.
Yeah, me too. Also, the fact that they were kind of, even though they were curious about the tech that was going on, they kind of were unfazed by it in general. Like, he has these lasers. I'm sorry. I would have been like more, I expected more of a reaction from like that one guy that he like saw it on himself. Like, I would have freaked out if I didn't know what a laser beam was you know?
Those like electronically generated lights did not exist.
Right. And the fact that like she does make the connection that like the lasers point where the target goes, like
That alone is wild.
yeah. Yeah.
Which is another point for the Predator should have been using old-fashioned weapons. Mm-hmm. It's frankly, if I was greeted with this invisible creature, first of all, concept of invisibility, I do not know if they had that back then.
No. I don't think so.
It has this ability to control arrows mid-flight, to just kind of explode people when it wants to. I would believe it was a god, and I
Right.
would worship it.
Yeah.
I would beg for its, like, mercy. And that's not what the Predators want. They want battle. And
Right.
so the fact, that's another reason why it should have been using old-fashioned weapons, is to come off as, I don't know what it is, but it's clearly humanoid and trying to kill us, and that's all we really need to know.
Right. The other thing too, she goes back to camp with the head of this thing, and they just don't even question it. Like the tribe is like, "Oh, a new creature."
Yeah.
But with glowing green blood? Like
Yeah.
that's not something we've seen ever.
I wish they did something else with the pistol. Like,
Yeah.
the fact that the Predators owned the pistol, to me, knowing a little bit about Predator culture, is that would have represented something owned by a great warrior, or something or someone who earned the respect of a predator.
Right.
That was why they kept it. Is that was like a symbol of victory. And so to me, I think it made more sense if the predator had killed Naru.
Yeah.
And thought like this was a worthy foe. Or she died in front of him or something, and he's like, I will remember you. That was for a human, that you were a great warrior, and I will keep this weapon.
So they're already talking about making a second Prey movie, and if that's not how it ends, like if Naru doesn't die and he takes the pistol, I don't know what. It doesn't make sense if it doesn't do that. I thought she was going to die.
Yeah.
I would have, not that I wanted her to die, but I think it's a better story.
Yeah. It makes more sense.
Yeah, it really does. That's all I've got.
Yeah, me too. I'm ready to
Okay.
talk about the spooky.
Yeah.
The spooky!
There wasn't really much for me. The one scene I liked that I don't even know if it's really spooky, I just really liked it, is when he holds the bear above his head and the blood drips on him.
That was pretty cool, because then you saw him.
Yeah.
But the problem is,
We saw him a bunch already
Yeah.
because of the way the invisibility filter was.
yep.
I think that would have been a really great reveal if we didn't see him at all, but maybe we saw like
Mm-hmm.
footprints appearing and things like that.
Yep.
Like, have you seen the new Invisible Man movie that came out 2022, 2021?
The Hollow Man?
Invisible Man?
Oh, yeah, the one from Blumhouse. God.
There were a couple scenes where like he's standing on a rug and she tries to pull it, or not a rug, a blanket. And like you see his feet there and nothing else. And like that was cool.
Mm-hmm.
And like they could have done more things like that. And then had the reveal with the blood. And then it would have been like, ooh, like shocking kind of.
Yeah.
That would have been great.
Yeah, I put nothing.
You put nothing?
Is it? It really wasn't a spooky movie.
No.
And granted, the original Predator was more like psychologically spooky, is feeling hunted by something.
Yeah.
There was very little in it.
Was the original Predator classified as horror?
I wouldn't say so.
I didn't
I'd say
think
it's
so.
more like action.
Yeah. It's like sci-fi.
Action sci-fi.
I was
yeah.
surprised this movie was classified as horror.
I don't think it was. I think our viewer just requested it.
Oh, no, because when you look it up, I'm pretty sure.
So anyway, some overall thoughts on the movie. It's pretty solid. It's got great production value. It was an awesome concept, but unfortunately it just didn't really have much payoff. It had a lot of high quality filming. It felt very authentic, but it just wasn't made well, I guess.
Yeah. My overall, it's decent.
I don't want my time back, which is more I can
Right.
say than Skinamarink.
Yeah. I enjoyed the parts I enjoyed. Pretty much. That's pretty much all I can say. I know that sounds weird, I guess, but there are enjoyable parts of the movie. But yeah.
So, my Joseph DeSasio Memorial line highlight is, "This is as far as you go, no more, this is it," which is the kind of, they're talking about the hunting mentality. There wasn't a lot of great dialogue
I
in this movie.
know.
I absolutely wasn't going to use a quote from the original
God,
Predator.
no.
So,
No, you're
they were talking
absolutely
about
right.
the kind of hunting philosophy of when you have to stand your ground against a hunter. The problem is they were establishing it just so painfully obvious that it was going to pay off against the Predator.
Yeah.
What's your rating?
I give it a 6.
6 what?
Tomahawks on a string.
Good call. You guys should have seen, she was looking around at the table, and I was worried she was just going to be like 6 beer cans. Or just
On
whatever
top of a
she
candle.
can. Yeah, whatever she can see.
No,
All right, I'm glad.
no,
I'm glad.
I do that to think.
All right. I gave it 6 sushis that I ate during the filming of this episode, or recording or whatever.
All right.
All right, what are we
That's it.
watching? What are we watching next time?
Next time we are watching Jeepers Creepers Reborn.
Oh, good. Yes, we are gonna have to watch the
Original.
original
Two?
and probably the second one.
Yeah.
That's all right. I've heard decent things about it.
I haven't, but I'm sure
I
it's
haven't heard
fine.
criticism of it, and usually that's enough for me to just If no one has bad things to say about horror, it's usually not hard to find someone who hates a horror movie.
My dad said it sucked, but I feel like
All right.
that's also pretty generalized. Like, you didn't have any.
Dad also didn't care for Nope, though, right?
True. So we know he has bad taste.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, we'll be watching Jeepers Creepers next week.
Perfect. Harass Ashley whenever she doesn't get the episode out on Wednesdays.
I'm trying my best. She says.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working on it. Well, thank you all for listening. I'm really, really doing it. We appreciate you a lot.
Ashley's recovering from a sickness, we should add.
I had a little tummy trouble.
Pestilence.
Yes. Oh, yeah, I missed trivia this week. It was real sad.
And we won, too.
I know.
You missed out on, like, a $2 discount on your $12 pizza.
It's actually like a $16 pizza because of the vegan cheese.
And
I
the
know.
gluten-free crust.
Yeah, and the gluten-free crust. Exactly.
Not easy.
Rip. But anyways, oh, there was a funny scene actually. Wait, let's go back to the movie for a second.
Okay, yeah.
There was a funny scene. I might cut this out, but over the weekend we played Risk.
Oh, yeah.
And I played for the first time and I had zero concept of the game. I sort of get it now, but I really don't.
Actually, it was so wild. It was like Ashley just didn't get the concept of Risk. Is she was like, well, what do I do now? Do I move? And I was like, how do you not get the, like, it's just any world domination game. Surely you just get, the goal is to get more territories. And Ashley was
Which
like,
is... Yeah, I eventually gave up my pieces to another player who then dominated the game. And
well, yeah, he dominated because the remaining players got bored and quit.
yeah, but at one point, though, I think I left Russia with one person only, and Val moved in with, like, a good fleet. And in the movie, there was the Predator, and there was just one of the colonists who was there, like, standing with his gun facing the Predator, and I was like, that's my guy.
Yeah.
That is my one guy in Russia trying to defend. I lost Russia. I did not succeed, but it made me laugh and think of Risk.
But yeah, the highlight of that game was David rolling 6 consecutive ones, and then he rolled one more time and got a 2.
Oh my god, I feel he really rolled so poorly.
Yeah, it was impressive, really.
Anyways, all right. Well, again, thank you for listening. Feel free to check us out on the Instagram, Horror Sucks Podcast, or our beautiful website, horrorsucks.com. You can also find us on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Please, recommend us to your friends. If you like what you hear, make sure to leave a rating, maybe a review. They do help us. Carter's rolling his eyes because
I'm not rolling my eyes.
Oh, it looked like you were. And with that,
Stay soupy.
yeah,
Horror Sucks is brought to you by, that's your line.
you said soupy.
It said spooky.
You said soupy.
I said spooky.
Okay. Horror Sex is brought to you by Wild Thing Media. Editing done by me. Production done by Carter. Bye.